Well, good afternoon. Mike Benner with the Portland Police Bureau. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's no secret that Inauguration Day is right around the corner, January 20th. That's Monday. And so, of course, Unified Command has been standing up what that looks like from our perspective and staffing, and we are ready to go. We wanted to address that today. We have a number of speakers. We'll be starting with Mayor Keith Wilson, followed by Chief Day. Then we'll have Jordan Wiley, who is the Deputy Director of the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. And last but certainly not least, Nathan Vasquez, who is the new Multnomah County District Attorney. With that, Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate your time. I'm grateful to be standing here today with City Administrator Michael Jordan, Deputy Director of the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management, Jordan Wiley, Portland Police Chief Bob Day, and DA Nathan Vasquez. Thank you for coming and really helping Portland through this next few days. We're here to reaffirm the essential right to peaceful protest, a fundamental pillar of our democracy. Our leadership across the city, county, state, and federal levels share a strong alignment in goals and expectations for any public demonstrations. We will not condone violence or unlawful destruction of our city. Imagine what Portland can do united. We can unite around free speech, freedom, acceptance, and protecting our vulnerable. Passion does not overrule our responsibility to our neighbors. If we see actions intended to hurt people or harm our community, our law enforcement partners will be forced to intervene. We cannot solve national issues with local street violence or vandalism. We take harming people and the place we live seriously, and those who make these choices will be held accountable. We want to lead by example and show the nation what a well-run city will look like when we leave no Portlander behind. Thank you for peacefully joining so many others to tell our community how our Portland values are shown and what you believe. Thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership, for your support. Just getting up to speed here in these first couple of weeks. I want to thank City Council as well, the Governor, the Oregon State Police. We stand before you again, united in our effort to preserve everyone's First Amendment right to peacefully express their views, as well as maintaining public order. We're going to do so, of course, in conjunction with a lot of partners, many of whom I cannot name specifically, but as Mike mentioned at the beginning, our Unified Command, which includes the Fire Bureau, the Police Bureau, and the Bureau of Emergency Management. Thanks to the direction of our City Administrator, Michael Jordan, his leadership, and the Public Safety Service area coming together, as well as our regional partners and our federal partners, constantly in communication, the relationships we built over the last year that we saw come to fruition and allow for a very safe and effective election week, I am confident is going to materialize over the course of the next few days as we look to the inauguration. So I continue to be hopeful and encouraged on where we're going. And I base that not only upon current intel and current information, but the responsiveness of the men and women of the Portland Police Bureau, their professionalism and their dedication to excellence in achieving our goals of transforming the dynamic between the police and the people we serve, reducing crime and the fear of crime, and organizational growth and development. And I'm grateful for that. We are monitoring several different aspects of the intelligence community, working with our federal and local partners, obviously relying upon open source information, and there are a handful of events that have been identified over the course of the weekend and into the first of the week. So we will be out doing our outreach. We've been meeting with groups that are posting online their intent to protest or demonstrate. Our dialogue officers have received extensive training, and that program is up and running as we're doing a lot of outreach, making ourselves available to help facilitate an event that maybe they want to share some information with us, that we can amplify their message, create space for their message, as well as providing that safety and security for the rest of the city. We have made huge strides as a community in the last 16 months in the area of public safety. Crime is trending down in many major categories, including vandalism. It is my expectation that that will continue through this weekend and into 2025 as we continue our crime reduction efforts and really creating a place that everybody wants to live, play, work, and thrive in. It would not be I would be remiss if I did not recognize that the inauguration this weekend is held over the celebration of a great civil rights leader, Martin Luther King. And I recently finished one of his books called Why We Can't Wait. It was written in 1964, and it's a reflection on the Birmingham campaign that occurred in 1963. And we have really no better example in our nation's history of a man who understood the power of nonviolence and the power to bring about change. And when he went to Birmingham in 1963, probably the most segregated community in our country at the time, led by, of course, Sheriff Bull Connor, the notorious racist sheriff, King required anybody who participated in the movement to sign a pledge. And that pledge had 10 points to it. I'm not going to read all 10. But he required they sign a pledge. And some of those points are reflected. One of them is, remember always that the nonviolent movement in Birmingham seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory. Seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory. For the organization, for the police bureau, for the city, for our community, this is not about winning. This is not about coming out on top. This is about us as a community continuing to express our points of view in managing the public space. Another one that I appreciated, he says, observe with both friend and foe the ordinary rules of courtesy. Think of where we could be if even in some of our greatest times of crisis, we could just observe with both friend and foe the ordinary rules of courtesy. And finally, one of the other points, he says, refrain from the violence of fist, tongue, or heart. Fist, tongue, or heart. So here was King entering far more volatile situations than we will be facing over the course of the weekend. But I just think it's prudent to recognize his legacy, his teachings, and see the application of those principles as much today as they were, almost 60 years ago now. I'm confident as we enter into the weekend that we have a good plan in place, staffing resources, support of the folks behind me and others, and look forward to seeing Portlanders once again show up in a way that demonstrates, as the mayor said so well, our values, our character, our strength, and really demonstrate to the United States as a whole that Portland is a city where all are welcome and all are allowed to express their thoughts on that. I'll pass it off now to Jordan from PBEM.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, everyone. So the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management, the Portland Police Bureau, and Portland Fire Bureau are working as a team, making decisions collaboratively to ensure a coordinated and streamlined response. This is what we're referring to when we say unified command. We're unified as a city. In addition, we also work together citywide to have a singular and unified response and recovery plan. This model ensures we have shared priorities, make the best use of our resources, and have continuity across the city. The city has been preparing for Inauguration Day for many months. We've worked closely, as Chief mentioned, with county, state, and federal partners, as well as other groups. This includes our business partners, so they can continue serving the community. Our emergency response framework is built for moments like this. We are united in providing a safe environment for all people in Portland. Thanks. I'll turn over to you, DA.
We've heard quite a bit already, so I'm going to be very direct and brief. Let me be clear, the right to protest does not include the right to vandalize buildings, break windows, or hurt people. If you break the law during these events, you will be prosecuted, period. I want to thank the hardworking officers and deputies and employees of the City of Portland and the Sheriff's Office and everyone else that's been working so hard to keep our city safe and our county safe. I'm pleased that after our presidential election, we saw an immense amount of collaboration, and what we saw was a very peaceful election time here in our county. I believe that happened in large part because of the collaboration among the various agencies, departments, and this community. So we can certainly support free speech, and we want to see peaceful protest, but we will not tolerate in any respect destruction of property or hurting people or interfering with other people's right to peacefully assemble and protest. The people in this county, they have a right to express their thoughts and their feelings when they want and where they want, but that does not include creating fear for others, demonstrations that are violent and destroy property. If that occurs, those individuals will be prosecuted. Thank you.
All right, thank you, DA. We'll have some time for Q&A. If you just want to state your name and who you'd like to ask a question to, we'd appreciate that. We'll start with Shelby from K2.
Thank you. I have a question for Chief Bob Day. We didn't really see any protests after the election, so were you guys doing anything differently when it comes to inauguration weekend?
So we had a few demonstrations over the course of the election week. You know, they were small in number and size, but we did have a few. I was out with our dialogue officers for a gathering in front of City Hall one particular night. What we've actually taken the very similar playbook in terms of staffing, in terms of resources, but we also are mindful of the fact that, you know, our officers are already heavily taxed and performing at a high level. We're aware of the fiscal challenges of mandating overtime and work. So in cooperation with Oregon State Police and our other partners, we are flexible, making some adjustments. So I would say the playbook is similar, but there probably be a constant evaluation as we go into the weekend and to the first of next week. We will not just be, you know, sitting around. As I mentioned, this is a very important weekend for our community, for our nation, as we honor Dr. King. So we'll be participating in various, you know, events and being seen and visible in a way that's, you know, outreach oriented, and then adjusting as we go. But essentially, having the entire organization as well as some of our regional partners available to respond is still on the table.
Chief, just to follow, what's your information that you're getting right now compared to on election night when there really wasn't an expectation of much happening that night? What about now?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have about 3 or 4 events identified at this point. It's very fluid. Some have dropped off, some have popped up. You know, as I said, we're engaging always on the front end, doing outreach, seeing if we can gather more information. And, you know, essentially each one, we triage each one based upon what we know from history, based upon how it's being responded to in the social media space, and based upon their responsiveness to us and their willingness to collaborate or work with us. So I can't give you a specific, you know, threat level because of that fluidity, but know that, you know, we're taking each one very seriously and hopeful that, you know, we'll be able to assist them in managing them as they go.
What's the involvement of federal officers and OSP?
Well, OSP, who we've done tons of work with, from, you know, our downtown bike squads to previous public order events, they'll be here in a support role. I've had a great conversation with Superintendent Cotting. I know that the mayor has had conversations with the governor. She has voiced her support. So they'll be here available, much like they were during election week if we have a public order event. But we intend to, and speaking with Superintendent Cotting, we intend to join with them and us to be seen in the community as, you know, an outreach effort, not a heavy enforcement effort, particularly on Monday where we're going to try and do some outreach around MLK Day. In terms of our federal partners, we work closely with the FBI and others with a reliance upon intelligence information. There is no ask or request for any kind of you know, public order policing. I don't anticipate that. It's good to remember that the Federal Protective Service, which is the uniform component that provides public safety services to the federal buildings, for example, the Gus Solomon, there's about a handful of those uniformed officers, and we're a federal facility to be threatened or they were to be in need of assistance, we would respond and help them. But there's no outreach on our part for federal involvement in any of the public order or policing events.
You talked about the fluidity of the events that you overheard, but are there areas of the city where activity may be concentrated, and would you be deploying officers there proactively?
Yes, well, two things. Short answer is yes and yes. Downtown is, you know, typically the most visible area of the city that we see these events occur. I think it's just, you know, the space, the environment, all of that. the attention given to it. We know that some of these events will be happening other places that we saw during election week. I don't know if this is the case for inauguration weekend, so don't quote me, but we know during election week there was an event that were at Revolution Hall. There's some others in, inner southeast. But our intent with the resources we have is to really be broad in terms of our service to the city. We will be intentional in those areas that we're specific to, but I don't want to just have everything stacked up in one place. At the same time, the city still needs to operate. There's still public safety need. And I also see that when we maximize our resources, what I really take great satisfaction in is seeing us provide the level of service to Portlanders that they want and they deserve. During the election week, when we were not managing any civil disorder, we were call response times decreased double digits. We didn't have calls holding. We were able to do follow-up investigations. It was a great boost to the encouragement to the men and women of the Police Bureau to be able to really go out and not work from a scarcity model, but really from a model of adequacy to be able to provide that service. So we will be doing the same over the course of the next few days.
Celine and then Heather.
Are we able to specifics about what exactly the presence is going to look like, and also like during election week there was kind of a thing where it's going to last for a week, we're going to see the increased presence. Is this the same thing we're going to be seeing? And also, can we expect to see downtown boarded up again? Just can we see some more specifics?
Downtown, I haven't gone up and down Broadway as of recent. I know during the election week there was a lot of buildings that were boarded up. We're not recommending or suggesting, but we're also not discouraging or telling people. As I said before, that's an individual decision. Business owners have to make that decision, and I support them and understand their reasoning behind that, whatever it might be. In terms of specifics, I don't want to discuss tactics in too much detail, but there should be an overt police awareness for our community. There should be high visibility as an expectation of me that our officers will be out and about, they'll be seen. Some of it will be in an enforcement capacity. We do want to take advantage of chances that we can to reduce our traffic fatalities. So maybe we have if we're not managing a public order event, maybe we have a focus on traffic. We continue to emphasize getting people into deflection and making sure we're emphasizing our outreach to people that are steeped in addiction. And so maybe there's an opportunity for us to use some of these resources to get more people connected to services. So those kind of things would definitely be on the table in addition to any public order situation we had to manage.
Do you have the timeline for how long we're going to see the high visibility?
I would probably say through the first of next week. I don't want to be specific, but we do have some information about events on Tuesday, so I'm anticipating through the first of next week.
How does the planning and response this year, this weekend, compare to previous inaugurations?
Well, I wasn't here for some of the previous inaugurations. Well, no, actually, I guess they happen every 4 years. I can't use that excuse. I always say I'm new here, but they happen every 4 years, so I actually was here for a few of those. I would say what sets this time period apart, and it really goes back to the work we did in 2024 and what's demonstrated today, is really the unity and the collaboration. And it sounds almost trite to say it because we've been saying it so much, but in my 30-plus years of service at the Police Bureau and 35 years of connection with the city of Portland in some way or another, it just brings me a great source of encouragement to know that we're not standing alone. PPB is not isolated in this effort, that there is a literal unified voice with clear expectations. It doesn't mean that we're always in agreement, but knowing that as an organization, as a city, as a state, we're standing together with some basic principles is really encouraging. And I think that is a model I'm hoping that we continue to build on. And, really the excitement about this press conference for me today is we're actually replicating it, right? It wasn't just one and done in November. We're actually replicating it. We have some challenges ahead of us around public safety. We probably have some challenges ahead of us around public order. We really don't know how the next 4 years are going to shake out and what some of the challenges might be. And, under the mayor's leadership, under Michael's leadership, the city administrator, to be able to come out in the first 2 weeks and say, hey, we're still building upon the successes of 24, I think that's something worth celebrating. And we're not doing that just because of us. I want to emphasize not only the men and women that do the work every day, but the community has responded. I hear from Portlanders every day their desire to have Portland be seen as a city that's thriving. And this is just another opportunity to demonstrate that.
But would you say that the response, that the prep is not unique, but new this year? This seems like a much more unified command, the unified show of force, if you will, seems different than 4 years ago.
Absolutely. But, but it's based upon the fact that, we're not doing it alone. I mean, for so many years and throughout my career, I mean, PPB would be standing at this podium by themselves. And, to be able to stand here, so it is unique, but it's come with a great deal of intentionality. This stuff doesn't just happen, because we think about it. It has been a great deal of intentionality, and it's still a work in progress. I mean, we're still trying to figure it out as we go, but I have a lot of confidence in the direction we're in.
Lisa?
Yeah, question for District Attorney. What do you see is going to be different when it comes to prosecutions compared to back in 2017? The public really was shocked at how few people who did such an extensive damage to the city were actually prosecuted. Do you see things being different?
Well, I mean, 2017 versus, I can certainly talk to 2016 when I was a line prosecutor and I handled many of those cases and we prosecuted them and held people accountable. In 2020, we saw some differences, there was a different administration then. But under this administration, you're going to see a very dedicated effort. We are working hand in hand with PPB and with the Sheriff's Office, and we are going to hold people accountable. There's no policy in place. There's nothing that's restraining us from enforcing the law the way it's written.
I have another question for Chief Day. We were talking with residents today, and several people, the majority of people told us that they feel like the unrest, the kind of unrest that we're thinking of, has gone down in the past few years. And in fact, a couple of people mentioned feeling apprehensive knowing that there would be extra patrols on the street this week. What is your response?
Yeah, I mean, definitely during the election week, we saw, a far different response. I mean, obviously, than we saw, 4 years ago. And I certainly understand some of the apprehension people share with their experience with law enforcement. We cannot deny the history, whether it be here in the city of Portland or, across the country. But this really is a priority of mine. And I've said many times, and I've said it here, we cannot not believe our experience. And those experiences and those beliefs are real. I don't want to dismiss those, but I'm committed as the chief of police to create space for us to be able to explore our humanity in a different way, in non-enforcement, non-chaotic, non-high-stress situations. And weekends like this allow for that. The lack of staffing and the lack of ability to get out of just this chasing our tail mode really hinders us from developing those relationships and maybe changing those points of view. And maybe we don't change them to the point of where we're in agreement, but at least we have a level of understanding and a certain level of expectation. That is so core to safety and security, is that we have at least a sense of legitimacy to the process. And so weekends like this, we do staff in anticipation of, because we have history that shows that we are at risk. But going forward, it's evolving all the time. As I said, we're making adjustments this week as compared to election week. Election week, we made adjustments. We had booked out 5 days. Yeah, we booked out 7 days, and 4 or 5 days in, we decreased our staffing, released resources, changed the mode. So, there's nothing here there's a playbook for. We're really building it as we're going.
Lane and then
Two just operational questions. You said that you would have heightened presence to the first of next week. What do you mean? How many days is that? And I know during election week, forgive me if you said this, officers work 12 hours shifts. Are they going to be doing that?
At this point, so the first question about in terms of, I don't want to give specifics into next week because I'm not really sure what those dates are going to be. So I'm just saying, the first of next week. It'll definitely be through Monday and Tuesday. It could be longer. Right now, officers, I believe, are working their regular 10-hour shifts. We didn't require 12-hour shifts, so we'll be using 10-hour shifts. That's just an attempt to relieve some of the stress and the demand on their time. There's also, a fiscal responsibility there that we're trying to manage. So both of those, but 10-hour shifts, like I said, high visibility presence. We're also really trying to make sure that we're providing, adequate breaks and time for folks so we don't have people out that are tired making poor decisions.
Celine?
Are you guys recommending for the public to maybe stay inside more that day? Like you said, it's also, if you're going to be celebrating Martin Luther King Day, do you have any recommendations for the public? And also, kind of another part to that, back in 2017, obviously there was a lot of people that were out, thousands. bridges got shut down because of protesters. Are you seeing that maybe that doesn't have to happen this time because of now you have this unified command and more resources, or are you still kind of on the lookout for potentially shutting down bridges, thousands of people?
Yeah.
What's your message to that?
Well, first of all, I would never discourage a Portlander from not going outside if it's sunny. So, you know, and I think Monday is like 32, 35 degrees and sunny. So if this weather holds, I absolutely want Portlanders out and about. And I want Portlanders out and about demonstrating the appropriateness of being able to express our First Amendment rights. You know, and if that means that, I think we have demonstrated as a community, we're pretty tolerant of 10,000 people closing the Burnside Bridge. You know, that's not, when those events happen, those are not public safety events, those are community-driven events. And so I welcome that kind of community leadership, that kind of community organizing. I think it sends a really strong message statewide, nationally, but I want to echo the mayor's comments, you know, that we do it in a way that reflects our Portland values, that reflects to the world, like, hey, this is how it's done. You can have strongly held beliefs. You can be in disagreement with whether it be national or local opinions. But as a community, we have found a way to express that, and it makes sense, it's safe for everyone, it's clear, and the message actually gets heard and allowed to be acted upon. I go back to Dr. King's comments. I mean, that's where his effectiveness came from. Birmingham changed the course of the civil rights movement. The events that came out of Birmingham literally galvanized the North and changed the civil rights movement. And he literally said, I don't want you to be a part of this if you can't agree to these 10 principles. We good? Thanks, Mike.
That's great. I just want to say thank you to all of you for showing up, because we can't share our message with the community without you. Thank you to everyone behind me. And then just also just logistics and some background. Our communications team at PBB will be working closely with Incident Command throughout the coming days, and so with help from some communication partners as well, but we'll be messaging out as we see fit and appropriate. So you can expect to hear from us in the coming days. With that, thank you and enjoy the rest of this sunny day.